2024 season kicks off Thursday night, and we are here to get you set on Bonfire Sports. Welcome inside Game Day Winnipeg. My name is Darrin Bauming, joined by the legend, Chris Walby, Blue Bombers and CFL Canadian Football Hall of Famer himself. Chris, how you feeling on the precipice, if I can use a big word, of the 2024 season? All I know is the Madhouse is going to be rocking Thursday night.
I'm happy. I'm tired of exhibition. Exhibition was a really weird season for me this year. The Bombers not playing, 11 starters that'll be showing up tomorrow. And I know they did a good job of allowing these young players to showcase themselves, to try and grab a spot. Very few spots really open. But having said that, I'm not a big fan of it. I understand the necessity of it. And as you say, we're on the verge, the precipice of the regular season, which I'm really looking forward to seeing, because we're getting to see guys like Zach back, Stanley Bryant back, Kenny Lawler back, and the list goes on. I mean, now the question is, and I've seen it being asked in the media a lot, and I think you love this term, rust versus reward. They haven't really played much. I mean, they practiced, and I know they're sharp in practice. They're veterans, so they don't really need a lot of gameplay. This is just a different philosophy from when I played, where you had to play every down to get yourself ready for a game. Nowadays, you can get 2 weeks, 3 weeks off, and let's just put you back in the lineup. It's just a different mindset, different philosophy, and I guess it's the way of it's the way it is now. I mean, it's not the way of the past; it's the way of the future. Keep everybody safe and healthy.
Yeah,
I hope that, knock on wood, I hope that happens and comes true tomorrow.
Yeah, and when it comes to health, the Bombers are, in pretty good shape. Yeah, some guys are nicked up. We're going to get through the entirety of the injured lists, the starters for Week 1 Thursday night, a Grey Cup rematch between the Alouettes and the Bombers. I'm sure Winnipeg is going to be champing at the bit, Chris, to, get a little bit of payback, redemption, at least, they didn't get the last laugh in November, but, they'll be able to leave an impression and set the tone for 2024 with this first game.
Yeah, it was interesting to read about Pat Neufeld. He had to get a new helmet because he was so frustrated from losing the last second in Montreal that he smashed his helmet up, and he had to get a new one for this year. But I think it's a combination, guys, not just Montreal. But the last 2 years to lose in the final play is gut-wrenching. I mean, obviously the blocked field goal attempt, losing to Toronto, and then, of course, the last second touchdown over the middle to Tyson Philpott, which just basically broke the backs of all the Bomber fans. And, that sticks in your craw. I don't care what everybody says. I told you this a long time ago there, DB. Sometimes you remember the losses worse, more often than the wins. I can remember losing in 92 to Doug Flutie. I can remember losing in 93 to Damon Allen when Matt Dunnigan had his, blew his Achilles, and that therefore we had to go with Sling and Sammy Garza. It just, those games stand out to me almost as much as the ones you win. I guess when you win, you get giddy, you get the champagne, you get a little hammered up, you have some fun. And we don't do the crazy things like our boy Chris, the streaker Strevler with the bare-chested bare-chested with the mink coat and the whole 9 yards, man. What a character that cat is. Good to see him back in our lineup. But, I'm just looking forward. I think it's going to be great, and I think that there's definitely some bitterness, but you can't live with that. It's a new year. It's a fresh start, fresh coat of paint. Let's see what kind of picture they paint. Oh, do you like that? What kind of picture they're going to paint? That's really nice, man. I'm poetic already.
Will it be a Picasso or a Michelangelo, right? And speaking of things great to see again, everybody back in the live chat, watching live on YouTube and Facebook and watching live on Twitter and LinkedIn. We are going to get it going to Instagram soon. So it's not exactly a straightforward process, but we're going to get that going too. And if you're listening to the podcast, thanks so much. We appreciate all of you so much for joining us on Bonfire Sports. We're going to do this all season long, pregame, postgame, live every single game from today all the way through to the Grey Cup. If you want more bit of preview content of the 24 season, some of those rookies that Chris and I were impressed with, and how we kind of see things shaking out. You can go back and watch the 2 Game Day Winnipeg episodes from the preseason games. Chris, you know, like your playing career, it only gets better looking back on it.
Yeah, you know, you just look at all these guys. And I was just actually, as we're doing this, I was kind of Googling that Myron Mitchell guy, the new punt and kickoff returner for the Bombers, to try and get some little information on him. I see he's an American guy. He was with Minnesota Vikings, so he's had some, you know, opportunities or cups of coffee in NFL. They obviously liked him. It's weird because he came out of the blue for me. I wasn't really expecting him to be the guy.
No, and Chris, I think you're like everybody else. This is what I wonder. This is what I really wonder. And when I asked, you know, special teams coordinator Mike Miller about it, you know, he was a little cagey, and rightfully so. But this is what I think. I think early in camp, they saw Myron Mitchell, who will wear number 0, by the way, returning kicks and punts, effectively replacing Janarian Grant for the Blue Bombers. I think what they saw is something in Myron Mitchell immediately jumped off the page for them early in camp, maybe even rookie camp, because I've been in a handful of football rooms, not as many as you, but a handful. And sometimes in training camp, the coaches will just be like, you see 0? That's our dude. Let's look at these other guys and see how it shakes out. See if somebody can get their game to where 0's is. 0, Myron Mitchell. I think he just did something that was like, wow, that's our guy. And that's maybe why we didn't see him in the preseason.
I don't know if I agree with that statement. I think there's some truth to what you're saying there, DB.
Well, he didn't return any kicks in the preseason. So what did he do to win the job?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's
maybe
what I'm
he
saying.
did something. But my interesting thing about that, or the way my take on that is, I can have a guy like Chris Smith, who was just let go because he's been hurt, but still, one big return, got a touchdown, excellent run, right? Great. I noticed one thing. If you watch the interview with Coach O'Shea, he goes, you know what? What great blocking on the play. Almost taking away a little bit of the sting of what Chris Smith did. Yeah. Now I know he's injured. And it's always like this. You know, a guy does one great play, but how does he follow it up? You know, a guy could be a complete dud after that. Mm-hmm. That may be just one, kiss at stardom. So I don't know if I put a lot of stock in that. Now, obviously, there's something they like about Myron Mitchell, as you said, but why would he not get an opportunity to return in the preseason? That's what
I think he was just a stud in camp, and they're like, I don't know if anybody's going to be as good as this guy. So let's look at everybody else.
Was he returning in? What was he returning in camp?
Of course, yeah.
Well, okay, that doesn't make sense to me. Then, what are you protecting him?
No, they're not protecting him, Chris. I just think he won the job like immediately. So then when it came to the games, it was, let's get a good look at the other guys.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything in the games.
Correct.
And that's because he won the job. Drives me nuts.
Because he won the job.
You know what? And what they say, you can be a greatest player in practice, and the headlights come on, and man, you're like a fish that walks up on shore with them big old glossy eyes.
Practice. Talking about practice.
You stick with your concept. I'll stick with mine. You know what?
No, yeah, I don't agree. I don't disagree with you. I don't think they were saving him. I think they wanted to look at the other guys because they knew what they had in Myron Mitchell. He was returning kicks in practice.
What they had? What did he run through the locker room, not get in touch with the coach's lunch? Come on, man. What's going on here, buddy?
If one dude is head and shoulders above the rest, why put him out there when you need to find out who the next best guy is?
What's his university pedigree? Did he do a bunch of returns in university? Did he set a bunch of records in university?
Alabama.
See, I was looking at. Yeah, okay, it's a good school. It's not one of the bigger schools, but it's a good school, no doubt about.
Yeah. Mid-major.
I agree. Okay, obviously you're right to a point of saying there's something to like about him to throw him in there week 1 without any preseason. That's just my point of. It's like saying, Drew Wolotarski plays a hell of a guitar, but you know what? We didn't see him in preseason, but boy, can he sing! You know what? Let's make him a starter first week because we like the way he plays the guitar, and maybe he ran a couple nice routes in practice. Yeah.
Look,
I know I'm being a little facetious on the guitar and all that stuff. That's just the way my mind works.
Well, this is cut and dry. We are going to see Thursday night with the Alouettes in town. We're going to see Myron Mitchell and what he can do in the Bombers return game.
Yeah.
This is something else that's important, Chris. And you mentioned
But,
about Mike O'Shea taking a little bit of the shine off of Chris
yes.
Smith's 109-yard punt return touchdown in that final preseason game, saying that the blocking was really good. I know this.
Yes.
The Bombers moved on from Paul Boudreau Jr., and Mike Miller is the new special teams coordinator. And if there was a weakness on the Blue Bombers last season, it wasn't the offense. They were off the charts. It wasn't the defense. They were rock solid. It was the special teams, both the cover teams when the other team is returning kicks and the Blue Bombers kick return game. Yeah, Janarian Grant returned some fancy ones and made the rest of the special teams look good. We all remember the one against the Saskatchewan Roughriders that, he just stiff-armed about a half dozen dudes and was breaking tackles like crazy. But Winnipeg needs to be better. I expect them to be better, and Myron Mitchell will just be a small part of that in 24.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I don't know if I can pin everything on the special teams. I mean, they're one play
but they
away
need to
from,
be better.
Maybe possibly. Yeah, I agree with that. But no team should be status quo. Offense, defense, special teams. If they always say if you're staying the same, you're not getting better. That's an old saying, and that's the truth. So you're always trying to improve in all aspects of your games. So, I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Mike Miller brings. I mean, you got a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he's played. He's the GOAT. They call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time special team player.
Yep.
He's seen everything possible. He's going to bring some new insight into that game. And I love the fact when they bring coaches in, whether it be offense, defense, or special teams, that have actually played the position and understand the different realms of it and what the intricacies of what goes on into it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Mike. And you might be right. Mike Miller might be, and this is the last thing I'll talk about, but Mike Miller might be the one that said, hey, coach, really like this Myron Mitchell. That's it. Done. Because I heard that the boys are saying that O'Shea says that Mike Miller, he's got that East Coast you say a few words from the East Coast, but he gives you the look. And the players know and they understand because they know who he is. They appreciate it. He doesn't have to say much more. So, I mean, when you think about it, they're going to a new special team guy in Miller. You got a new defensive coordinator in Younger.
It's
exciting. It is an exciting time to be a Bomber fan to see where these guys are. I mean, a lot of teams, there's a lot of players in the media, a lot of you guys are picking BC. I know that Milt Stiegel picked BC.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did that just so he didn't get considered a homer, but BC will be okay. They didn't really shine in preseason, but he did the Bombers. I mean, you're trying new players all the time. So,
yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. And I think a little bit later in the show, you
Tomorrow
and I will get into
indication.
Okay.
Tomorrow's going to be indication. You're going to see how these guys gel. I mean, look at your lineup. Kolakowski's back. Dobson starting at left guard. You got Lofton, who's played all preseason at right tackle.
Well, here we go.
Patty
Let's pull
Neufeld
up the Blue Bombers offense.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. You got old Patty Neufeld with his new helmet. Stanley, the star over on the left tackle. But look at the receiving crew.
His new helmet.
I mean, you got Leller, you got Wolotarski, you got Dalton and Dembski back, and now you got this guy on Terrier, Wilson, who had a cup of coffee with the LA Chargers. They really like him at replacing Rasheed Bailey over in that slot back position. So, yeah, this is a very potent offense.
I was having a good debate with DT during Bombers practice day one this week about the Bombers position groups and what might be better as a position group than it was last year. And some really interesting debate about quarterback. Are they a better quarterback group than they were last year? I would say when Collaros is healthy, they're a better 1-2 combo. If Collaros is not healthy and Chris Streveler has to start or play, as like the number one, no, I don't think they're as good as a Drew Brown led team. But this is what I think, Chris. Another year older of Kenny Lawler. Another year of Dalton Schoen, who, for my money, and according to the voters in the CFL on TSN top 50 players, Dalton Schoen's the best receiver in the league. He's entering his third year. Don't you think the ceiling on Dalton Schoen has not been reached yet? Another year of Lawler, another year of Schoen, another year of Dembski, who I think is just getting better every single
Yep,
year, just more
I
comfortable,
agree.
more dangerous, more tools in his tool belt. Yeah, no Rashid Bailey, but you have an X factor, a wild card, if you will, in Ontario Wilson and Myron Mitchell. That could be, hey, they could be a more explosive player than Rashid Bailey. Rashid did some good things, but we don't know what these guys can do yet. Another year of Drew Wolodarski. This is what I'm saying, Chris. This Blue
Yeah.
Bombers receiving core, who, by the way, have the best quarterback in the league, the best player in the league, and
Yes.
Zach Collaros pulling the trigger. I think this receiving core could be better than it was last year. And I don't think anybody can hold a torch or a candle or anything to the level of talent this receiving core has. It's the best in the CFL, and I think it could be better than it was last year.
Yeah, and I agree with you, especially when you look, from sideline to sideline. A lot of teams like BC is missing some key players right now. Obviously, Reggie White Jr. is not with Montreal tomorrow. He's a good receiver for them. This is a healthy squad, and maybe there's some concept in not making these guys play in the preseason because you look at their pedigree and you can see what they can do. But you're right. When you look at Schoen, and I love Lawler's confidence, the fact that I'm a 2,000-yard guy this year, and I'm going to get 23 touchdowns going after Mills' record. Kenny can do it. I mean, the guy is a freak when he comes to catching a ball. His biggest asset, I think, is the way he adjusts to the ball in the air. He turns his body in certain situations and just comes up with the incredible catches, whether it be in the back of the end zone, down the sideline. As a matter of fact, I know what I don't believe it was Kenny. You posted something on one of your sites saying you watched Zach throw a ball that looked like it was never going to be caught. It was on a dime, right in the bucket. And the old pure magic is what I think you said.
Yeah, like
And you may
it
not
was
have magic,
one
but
of the most impressive, maybe the most impressive throw I've seen live from a pro
wow.
quarterback. Like it was 12 on 12. It's full speed. I don't know if they were in shoulder pads or not, but it was an out and up route for Johnny Augustine, who just stepped in with the first team offense
There
for
you
Brady.
go. That's the guy I was thinking. Yep.
And Zach Collaros threw it absolutely perfect. It had great velocity to get it on to the far side of the field. He was down the sideline, Augustine was. And if it was 6 inches off, it wouldn't have been there. It's almost like it grazed the underarm or like the torso of the defensive back who was draped all over Augustine. Zach Collaros has not lost anything. I think like I've talked about a few guys, but like Zach Collaros, he's playing his best football right now. And if I was another team, starting with the Montreal Alouettes on Thursday, I'd be afraid.
Well, I think if Montreal, you got to come after Zach. It's like any team that plays against Zach. Right now, if he gets comfortable, and whenever we see him make his big plays, oh man, every time rolling out, he rolls out, buys some extra time, and he finds that receiver downfield. And the receivers do such a wonderful job of breaking off their routes and coming back to the quarterback. That's such a key thing. You can't be running a fly route, stay on the fly route if your quarterback's, scrambling. So you got to adjust your route, come back to the football. And I think Collaros, and they're on such sync. And that's about, when you're talking about this, DB, you're talking about the fact that they've played with each other for so long. They have this, cohesion, this chemistry. They know where they're going to be. Look at Dembski. How many times have we seen Dembski go down from the slot, go deep on a ball, broken coverage somehow, and he's wide open, take it in for 7. I mean, he just all the time. But your quarterback has to be able to see that. And I think that Zach, as you say, is one of the best at reading defenses pre-snap, being able to see what they're going to bring. So, I mean, I love it. I'm going to watch the game. I'm excited to watch the game. I watched bits and pieces of the exhibition, but it's not the same because, your guys aren't in there yet. But now you got, the guys back in here. Now, you look at a Montreal, Eric Lofton, you're going to have to go against a guy like Sean Lemon, who is playing regardless of his betting, a little finagle thing, which is a big deal. I don't care about. But anyway, you're looking about that. It's going to be, I'm looking for, there's some individual battles here, buddy, that I'm really looking forward to seeing.
The live chat, and welcome everybody who joined us from Winnipeg Sports Talk. This is Game Day Winnipeg, as we do 3 p.m. the day before the game, all season long. And be sure to join us for post-game coverage live here on Bonfire Sports with Game Day After Dark. Lots of great questions in the live chat. I'm saving them. We're going to get to them a little bit later. Still going through the Blue Bombers offense and defense on the depth chart to see how they will kick off the 2024 season. Just as we wrap up the offense, Chris, Eric Lofton in for Jamarcus Hardrick. And for those out there that probably trust your word over anybody's when it comes to the offensive line in the CFL and pro football, how is this offensive line going to look with that major change at right tackle? A veteran of the CFL, but definitely not Jamarcus Hardrick.
Well, no, Jamarcus is already, obviously the highest paid offensive lineman in the league right now is Saskatchewan. I think Eric will be okay. If Eric struggles or if there's any issues, you'll see number 53, Patty Neufeld, swing out to right guard or right tackle, and they'll put in either Tui, Ellie, or Wallace. But, I mean, Gabe might go in there. But I just think that Eric's doing a pretty good job. But the O-line will definitely be key again. That's a good point by Casey Jones about, running the clock, winning the time of possession. This team, the last couple of years, I don't know if it was 2 or 3, but 2 for sure, has won the time of possession or across the league of all teams. Now, preseason means nothing, but they weren't very good in the preseason. As a matter of fact, only 83 yards passing last week, which I don't know if we've ever had a game under 100.
Wow.
So, I mean,
quarterbacking wasn't great. No.
It wasn't. No, I just think that I know a lot of people are concerned. It's always concerned. You got to put anybody in there. I forget Eric Lofton. It could have been Darrin Bauming or right tackle.
I'm angry with you. You actually mentioned a passing total number from a preseason game. Who gives a shit? Who cares?
I do. No, I was just looking at.
Why do you care?
No, the reason I look at that, DB, and I'm going to tell you exactly why, buddy, Professor DB, is because game 1 they had 200 yards plus passing.
Yeah, when they had starters in the lineup.
But your second game is where you start to build for the regular season.
Yeah, but that's not how the Bombers are doing it. That's not how they're doing it at all. They didn't play Bryant or Kolinkowski or Ellie or Neufeld or even Eric Lofton. They didn't play Augustine or Oliveira. They didn't play Dembski. They didn't play Schoen or Lawler or Wolotarski. They didn't play any of those guys. And you're talking about you're concerned about a passing yardage total? They're not ramping up for the regular season in that game. They were making decisions on who the depth players are, who can make the team and not. Sorry, I completely disagree.
All right, and you have the right to. We can agree to disagree, and I agree with that too. To your agree or disagree, whatever you want to talk about. But I do look at exhibition to see who pops out. I mean, that's what reason you have exhibition. And obviously, were you impressed with any quarterbacks? No, not me at all. Not at all. I'm actually surprised they haven't picked up Mason Fine from Saskatchewan as a third stringer. Maybe the pay is a little different.
That third spot is a development spot, right?
I don't think Terry Wilson is going to be the answer, but I could be wrong. And I hope Terry Wilson, if he ever gets an opportunity, makes me eat crow. I really do, because I'm not here ever to downgrade a player's ability. But I'm just saying, from what I saw from the 2 preseason games, I really wasn't impressed. But you got to also understand, to your point, a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces, not a lot of time to prepare. So I'm going to give them a pass on that. But to go to your point about the offensive line, that's the strength of this team, I think. Even though you've lost, a left guard and you've got a new right tackle, I still think that's the strength of this team. Stanley Bryant, Kolinkowski, Neufeld, I think that's where they win. You keep your quarterback happy, you keep him healthy, and you keep him standing straight up, and it'll be a heck of a year for Zach and the offense.
Let's look at the Blue Bombers' defensive side of the ball, where there are some changes.
Chris Joyle, get on me, man.
Hey?
Chris Joyle guy. I love you, man. You're doing good. He's all over me. First he calls me grumpy face.
I'll read it for those listening to podcasts. Chris Joyle says, the Bombers have sucked in the preseason every year for the last 4 seasons and have made it to the Grey Cup all 4 years. It never means anything, and everyone knows it. Walby might be the only one worried. Maybe you're the only one worried. Yeah. I know how you're wired, though, Chris. You are wired to win. You got the W on your head, on your hat. You got the W in your heart. And when the Bombers lose 31-10 in a preseason game, I imagine you're like, well, what the hell was that?
I do like that comment, though, and I love the grumpy face one. That was pretty good. So I appreciate the comments because, good or bad, they're funny. And listen, we appreciate all those people that are listening, as we say, to the podcast. It makes us go around and makes us enjoy doing what we're doing.
100%.
We put it out there, and that's what I love. You can agree or disagree.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Just play nice.
Dan Jed fan. I agree with.
Nice.
We do play nice. We call like it is, though. We ain't going to sugarcoat.
Well, this is what I always say. Don't attack the person. Attack the argument. Stand on your argument.
There you go.
This is a comment from Miss C. Stormy. We have Strev, no worries. Watching live on YouTube. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us in the live chat. Yeah, Chris Streveler is the number 2 quarterback. I don't think there was ever a debate about somebody taking that job. This number 3 quarterback spot is a development spot. Would the Bombers have liked to see better from Darren Granger, from TJ or from Wilson? Terry Wilson? Absolutely. But it's a development spot. So, were the receivers in the right place? Was the O-line protecting? Yeah. Was it broken plays?
Yeah, and I agree with you 100% on that. That Darren Granger, well, he was up against it. He was in a rock and a hard place. I mean, that was a tough. He didn't even have a full week of practice, and he's got thrown in there. I just think that it's just one of those tough things for a kid to come in and try and make a mark in an exhibition game when you only got so much time or limited plays. And as you say, new receivers, are they running the run routes? O-line, maybe breaking down. So many things can contribute to a quarterback's success, as you well know. So we wish him the best. I know that he was a little banged up as well. They released him. But we will develop with Terry Wilson as we go on. And barring any catastrophe, you shouldn't really see him on the field. It'll be either Streveler or Collaros. So
yeah, I'm sure they just hope that he is an absolute sponge in the room, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure he is. I mean, look at the teachers. You got the best quarterback. I think Zach right now, as you say, like fine wine, keeps getting better. Throwing the ball extremely well. I think it's just his smarts, his ability to read. And I said this earlier. His ability to read the defense pre-snap is so key. Mm-hmm. He knows where he's going to go. He knows what his options are. And we should give Buck Pierce credit for this. And I'm not to stagger on this with the offense, but Buck Pierce, the play calling of running a slot back across, motioning him, seeing if it's what kind of coverage do you have? Do you have man coverage or are they sitting in a zone? That opens up, and right away, number 8 goes, oh, okay, here we go. We got man coverage. I got Kenny one-on-one on the sideline. They might go with him. Maybe he's going to do a fly route. Maybe he's going to do a corner route or Dembski, to the goalpost. But that's what I like. I like Buck Pierce. I love the way he's doing it. He's getting stronger every year. I think I agree with the odds maker. I think the Bombers are number 1 favorite to win the Cup, and rightly should be at this time. And we'll see how it plays out.
Well, let's remember, Buck Pierce was given a raise by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers because he decided to stay and not take the head coaching job in Saskatchewan. So he's getting better. All right. He's probably going to he'll have his choice of head coaching jobs, I would say almost annually, moving forward here. But I've always been steadfast on the fact he wants to stay in Winnipeg. But as we move on from the offense to the defense, Chris, before we do that, I want to take a look at the injured list and where the Bombers are with that. But first, we got to thank our good friends at Pure Lifestyle. They came on board to sponsor us this season. They're just awesome. Go check them out at purewinnipeg.com. I go there for my doctor, physiotherapy, strength and conditioning. They got an awesome gym facility, and really just they're the best people. I have never felt intimidated going there. It's definitely not an Instagram gym. You know what I mean, Chris? Where people taking you go there, you do your thing. You don't feel judged. It's it's just a great place to go. And they've got a brand new medical facility as well, and a new minor injury walk-in clinic as well. So you don't have to wait in line at Pan Am or the ER all day if you sprain your ankle or something like that. Look at that gym facility. It's awesome. It is on Empress, right next to Garbage Hill. They've got so much cool stuff there. Go check them out. at purewinnipeg.com. Now, here's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers injured list going into week 1. And before we look at the defense, I wanted to look at the injured list, Chris. Adam Bighill will start the season on the 6-game injured list. So too will Noah Hallett, who has just been absolutely nagged by injury throughout his 3 or 4 years with the Blue Bombers. His brother, Nick, of course, is healthy and is going to back up Brandon Alexander at safety. This was a huge hit. Cameron Lawson, who really had a breakout year last year and was expected to seize the starting role at defensive tackle, him and Jake Thomas, 1A, 1B. He got nicked up. He's going to be a good stretch of time here. Jamal Parker stole Winston Rose's job last year, started in the Grey Cup. He is going to be out a while, but will start the game on the 6-game injured list. So too is Canadian defensive back Jake Kelly. Rookie American defensive lineman, don't mind the number 9. He is on the D line. Taiwan Garbett looked really good, had a really, really good training camp. 1-game injured list is Canadian defensive lineman and recent draft pick Kyle Sampson. But overall, Winnipeg, I would say, Chris, they're in okay shape. They're in okay shape when it comes to injuries. Of course, it depends how long Adam Bighill is out. I don't think he'll be the full 6 games.
No, I agree with you, and I don't think he will. But, they've got such great depth at that position. Obviously, with Kyrie Wilson, who I agree with you, might see a little time at the middle linebacker position. You got Shane Gauthier, who's been there for a long time. Reddick Cramdy on the other side. Brian Cole, he can switch all over. As you said, he's been very versatile, whether it be a DB or a linebacker. The guy that, it's interesting that Cam Lawson, the kid really came into his own last year, started playing very well, extremely well, had 5 sacks on the year, just signed a big contract extension, and obviously very disappointed to be on the 6th game. Hopefully he can come back, as you say. Was going to give a good battle to Jake Thomas, or at least a good 1-2 rotation at that tackle spot. That's one thing about football. You can't control the injury, so you just hope he gets back soon. Adam Bighill, I agree with you. I don't think he'll be there for the full 6, but you want to make sure he's healthy. I said this earlier. I think Adam is, he's starting to get up there in age a little bit, so you want to make sure he's 100%. And I know Al, the trainer, the athletic therapist for the Bombers, is phenomenal for not letting players come back before their time.
Especially with soft tissue stuff like hamstrings and pulled quads and things like that. They err on the side of caution more often than not. I would say almost always. 10 Canadians starting for the Blue Bombers in week 1, including middle linebacker Shane Gauthier. I do still expect Kyrie Wilson to be the majority of the work at middle linebacker, and Brian Cole, who was a weak side linebacker last year, I expect him to kind of be here where Wilson is slated to start. Gauthier will play, but the Bombers, 10 Canadians to start. I think this is kind of like a vet hat tip to Shane Gauthier, Chris, which is a good thing.
Well, I agree. Obviously, if you got enough Canadians, you can play them. A lot of teams won't. And I know the old mentality in the old days with a lot of the coaches that came up when I was playing, and even before that, was that, your Canadians are kind of like your fillers. They weren't considered in the same respect as they are now. You wouldn't have seen in the old days of saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to play more Canadians than I have to. The Bombers they've got a wealth of Canadian talent. They can get away with that and do it. Obviously, the addition of Tyrell Ford, who was with Green Bay last year, playing the 1 cornerback spot too as well. It's just changed. That whole thing. And going back to Al and the trainer, the game is different in one other way, though, DB. And I know when we played, you were forced to come back. The old adage was you don't make the club in the tub. And that really was. And they'll come in. The coaches would come in and go, hey, how you feeling? How many days? But they didn't say it directly, but the insinuation was if you don't get back quick, your job's gone. It's not like that anymore. But it was back then. So a lot of guys rushed and lied to the therapist and went, you know what, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm okay. And they go out and further injure themselves. And some of them possibly wrecking their future, their career. So that's one of the things that I love about the CFL that has really changed is the safety concept, not putting players in a situation to endanger whatever career they might have.
Taiwan Garbett made the club from the tub, starting the season on the 6-game injured list. But I asked Mike O'Shea when, they made a few cuts and they added a couple defensive linemen late in training camp. And I said, why that? Why add more D linemen when you just cut a bunch of D linemen? And he said, you can never have enough defensive ends. And I think they knew, well, Mike O'Shea said it plain and simple, that he felt they were a little bit thin at defensive end, and then clarified, not thin in talent, just thin in numbers. So the Blue Bombers, will look at a rotation of guys. Of course, you got all CFL players, CFL top 10 talent, Willie Jefferson. You have Celestin Haba, who's got really great technique and speed coming off the other edge. Yes. Adams made the team out of training camp, an American rookie. So too did Woods at defensive tackle. But they're going to have dudes everywhere all the time. This new Jordan Younger defense, Bombers' new defensive coordinator, multiple, Chris. You're going to see D linemen at linebacker. You're going to see linebackers coming off the edge. You're going to see blitzes coming from pretty much all 12 positions on the defense. They have got myriad looks, multiple, which I think is the best way to hide your intentions as a strategist and a defensive coordinator.
Well, I'm going to say this. One of the greatest that I've ever seen, the late, great Don Matthews. When he developed so many different defensive schemes. I remember he would line up 11 guys on the line of scrimmage, and everybody go, "Are you crazy?" But as a line, as a protection, you're like, who do I take? Do I take this guy? You're taught to block inside out. Sometimes he brings them all, and it's called risk or reward, and they throw a deep ball. But a lot of times they've got like 2 seconds to get rid of the football and make that decision. He created that. It wasn't until teams figured out how to do that they went shorter instead of going a deep ball, just running across the middle. But he made so many different plays. He would have defensive ends drop into the flat because they see the blitz coming. The quarterback's going to hit that quick slant over the middle. Well, hold it. There's your D end right in the corner there playing with a linebacker or whoever just vacated. So, I mean, I agree. I want to see I'm curious to see what Jordan Younger does. I don't think he'll change it all right away but I think that I think that Richie Hall and him putting their heads together, and you got to give Richie Hall credit too. I didn't even know he took a pay cut. I mean, not only are you now just a defensive assistant, but you take a pay cut. That, I don't care what anybody says. Man, you get hurt in the wallet, it hurts. Sure. It's I don't know. I know that he wants to still coach. I know they want him here.
He's still got
I don't even know why they put that. I don't even know why they put that information out there because, I was disappointed when I heard that as a fan, as a former player. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Kyle mentioning first live show you've made it to this year, but listen to all the podcasts of all the others. Appreciate that, Kyle. Great to see everybody in the live chat. Well, and then Spency says, "Kyle, quit kissing ass." Well, sometimes you got to grease the wheel. That's all right.
That's funny, buddy. That's funny.
Yeah. You mentioned Don Matthews. One of the things Don Matthews, created, I guess you could say, or part of the evolution of Canadian football, is he created the strong side linebacker. He created the strong side linebacker in the sense that putting a defensive back there, right?
Yep, you're 100% right. That's a great point. Great point, DB.
That's why it's not a linebacker spot. This is the thing. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the D line. 1, 2 in the linebacking court. That's your front 6. And then your back 6 is your 2 corners, your 2 halfbacks, your safety, and your dime. Front 6 and back 6. That's how CFL defenses work. Now, Brian Cole, very unique player because he is a weak side linebacker that is fast enough to play the dime. Reddick Cramdy's kind of a safety type, a Canadian who really seized that spot last year and played phenomenally down the stretch for Winnipeg. But this spot here, Chris, is a very, very difficult one to play. And Winnipeg has kind of been looking for that dude for a long time. Reddick Cramdy has taken that spot. He is just mean, nasty, super physical, smack you in your mouth type player. That's why Mike Miller likes him on special teams. And that's why Richie Hall last year, and Jordan Younger this year like him at the dime.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, just to add to your point, which was right point on, about found out that what would happen is it's a game of mismatches, right? So you'd have a linebacker in that spot where you call the dime. Now we're ready, Cramdy plays her. And what happens is you'll get a slot back, got some good speed, and they get a mismatch. So now they change it to put a DB or a faster guy that can handle, different formations. And if it's a slot back or if it's a receiver, because you've seen this nowadays, they'll bring the wide out right into the slot back position, and they'll just change it up a little bit. Now, if that DB or if that dime back was a linebacker, maybe it's a mismatch. Do you remember last year in the Grey Cup game when I think that Adam Bighill, who was banged up at the time, had to try and cover that guy that went, down the field? I think it was from Montreal touchdown.
Yeah, and Big Hill
Late
even
in the
pointed
game.
out that it wasn't his guy.
No, exactly. He saw it, but they had a breakdown. Good job of Montreal to confuse the Bomber defense at that time. But having said that, yeah, exactly.
Wanted to pull this up quickly from Ryan Friesen. Said maybe Richie Hall asked for Jordan Younger to take over. Well, we got a little bit of clarity on this. Jordan Younger was pursued by other teams to
exactly
maybe be a defensive coordinator. And, maybe to be a head coach, probably to be a defensive coordinator in another market.
Yeah,
because
not gonna be
Winnipeg would never get get in the way of a member of their staff getting a promotion, right? That's how they handle business. Buck Pierce, I mean, he made the decision to stay and not be a head coach. Probably the right decision. I just think for a variety of reasons, inside and beyond football. But Jordan Younger, I think, is a rising star in the CFL. So for Winnipeg to secure him as the defensive coordinator and then to retain Richie Hall on staff, he lives in Regina, comes to Winnipeg for the football season, goes back to Regina for the winter. Perfect situation. Jordan Younger and Mike O'Shea, old friends, close friends, playing days, coaching days, both in Toronto and Winnipeg. I think it was just the perfect move to make.
Well, it's a Mike Miller story too, right? I mean, O'Shea play with these guys, and when you play with them, you kind of get a better understanding of who they are on and off the field. And I think that I just think it's a good move. I agree, because I think that's the one thing. Jordan Younger was going to get an offer, and they're probably going to pay him some decent cash. And you know what? I know that the club does not stand in the way of anybody trying to upgrade their situation, but you also don't want to you don't want to lose young talent. And so I think they decided, how do we do this in a way? And I'm guaranteed it was a sit down in the offices with O'Shea and Nicky Hall and not Nicky Hall, the old quarterback played with me. That's another story. Richie Hall, and then and they just sat down with Jordan Younger and they said, okay, here's the scenario. How do we handle it? And that Richie Hall's, if anybody's ever met the man, I mean, not only was he an excellent football player, he's just an excellent person. Like, he's such he's a gentleman. He really is. If you look up the word gentleman, you'll see a picture of him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he probably just said, I'm just, hugely. And I think that he just said, you know what? I've been coaching a long time now. I'm enjoying it. I still want to stay with the team. I like the coaches we have here. Yeah, maybe I don't need to have such a heavy workload, but I'm here to, like, it's almost like the, now we can help out, younger growing. That's a great point by Craig Smith, because Stubler was one of the best on match coverage. I used to hate that. Where they put three guys to one side and they try, they'd always have one guy over there, an extra cat. I don't know how he did that, but I mean, Rich Stubler was one of the best too. Rest in peace. He's gone, I believe, as well. So, Nicky Hall, Craig Smith, our friend, is watching. Nicky Hall was one of the funniest guys ever. Man, we had him as a quarterback, and he was just crazy. And it's the only time in my professional career he said something, and I won't repeat it, in the offensive huddle at an exhibition game. And we looked at each other and we said, jailbreak. And we let everybody go. And he got schmucked. And he got get up and he goes, that better be worth it, as he broke his front tooth. Oh, we were nasty players. But you better respect the O-line, or the O-line is going to get you killed, son.
Yeah. That's a great story. I love that.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Nicky Hall. How about that? So to wrap the defense, Chris, we talked about the D line, we talked about the linebacking core and all the different looks Winnipeg will have this season.
Yeah.
But there are some changes in the defensive backfield. Brandon Alexander did not practice for the majority of training camp, but returned to practice on Monday. Yeah. And looked no worse for wear. Nick Hallett, I thought, did a pretty good job filling in for him when he was injured last season. So stability and continuity at safety. But, as the years go by, I think adding some depth to this spot, whether it is a Reddick Cramdy or a Brian Cole even, or a different American defensive back that they have on the practice roster, Nick Hallett, Noah Hallett, of course, on the 6-game injured list, the two Hallett brothers. Evan Holm and Dietrich Nichols, both named CFL All-Stars, not West Division All-Stars, CFL All-Stars, as a pair of defensive halfbacks who Mike O'Shea describes as the hardest position to learn to play in the CFL, because that's when you got to pick up, if you're a halfback on another team, Chris, you got to pick up a Dalton Schoen running the waggle, a White running the waggle, a Hatcher running the waggle, a Geno Lewis running the waggle. That's a tough spot. And Winnipeg has found themselves two studs at halfback. But here's where the new guys are. Tyreek McGee looked to have this job locked up on the boundary cornerback spot, which is the top defensive back spot. You're going to pull your top coverage. Okay. And it was Terrell Bonds who ended up winning the job, kind of seemingly out of nowhere. So we're going to get a good look at him. Tyreek McGee remains on the practice roster. Here's Tyrell Ford, who was a rookie with the Bombers last year, went to the NFL, spent all of training camp, was amongst the final cuts of the Green Bay Packers, hung around waiting for another NFL opportunity, didn't come to be. Ratio breaker, Canadian, starting at field side cornerback spot. So the Bombers' defensive backfield will look different in 2024, but I would say they're in pretty good shape.
Okay, a good question. And Craig Smith asked another one. And, thinking about Tyrell Bonds, the rookie out of Tennessee State. Obviously, as you say, Tyreek McGee looked like he had a lock on that. Then he got hurt. You're wondering how much you saw of Tyrell. I can't remember. I didn't watch much of him playing in the exhibition games, but I know you're at practice, which is great every day, and you're watching these guys.
It's tough.
So you probably be able to.
It's tough watching those DBs in the preseason games unless you're there in person, because we're getting Jumbotron feeds, at least the two Bombers
That's
games.
exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. And unless it's one-on-one with that individual cover guy, you don't see what they're doing on the other side of the field. So, but it was a great question. Tyrell Bonds going to be thrown to the proverbial fire tomorrow, and we'll see what he does, because there's some good players. I mean, when you're looking at Montreal with Julian Grant and Philpott, the guy that basically, was the Grey Cup champion, right? I mean, he was a Canadian. He was a Canadian in the game. The two guys that I really like on their team are Cole Speaker, Tyler Sneed. I really like those two slot backs. They got some good. And you know what? You got to be happy. Listen, Montreal's riding an 11-game win streak, going all the way back to the Grey Cup and all the playoff games and that thing. So, are they going to be as good? I don't know. They lost some key players to me. I mean, obviously, Stanback's not there. The running back. They're gonna put all their money on William Fletcher
and Josh Renanti as well. Yeah. Canadian Sean Thomas Erlington. Yeah,
they brought him from Hamilton over there. It'll be interesting. I like Cody Fajardo. I really do. I like him. I think it was nice to see him. It was just nice for him because he was taking so much heat from the time the last season he was in Saskatchewan. He went from hero to zero in like a matter of games. So it was nice to see him rebound and get that ring last year, even though it was against our team, the Bombers. Just a class act quarterback. It'll be good to watch two of these good quarterbacks. Probably one of my favorites and probably one of the top guys ever played the game, and Zach, against a guy that I think could be just as great in Cody Fajardo.
Yeah. Defensively, they added some pieces as well in Johnson at defensive tackle, Derek Wigan at tackle as well. Nafis, I'm mispronouncing his name, but Lyon at quarterback,
Nafis, yeah.
corner. And then here's a player that was omitted from the top 50
50.
players is Marc-Antoine
How?
Dequoy.
How was he omitted? He had a great year. I thought he was the best safety in the CFL.
Yep.
I mean,
And I'll say this, Chris.
Dequoy.
This is, for my money, the best linebacking core in the league today. Darnell Sankey in the middle, Tyrese Beverett at weak side. He was amongst the league leaders last season in defensive plays made. And then Stubblefield at the dime. When they do go big looks, he stays in. But, as a DB linebacker hybrid, kind of like a Brian Cole in the Blue Bombers, that trio, really, really good.
I agree. The biggest addition they got was, I thought, the turning point was when they got Lemon and Sankey. Sankey is just that good. I mean, he was in Calgary, did well in Calgary, went to the, I believe, the XFL, won a championship there. After that season, came to Montreal, helped them win a championship. Darnell Sankey is a ball hawk. He's around the ball all the time. The other guy that you mentioned, and I know we talk about Sean Lemon, who's the Lemonator, who's always around making big plays, getting a little long in the tooth, though, is the guy that really gave the Bombers trouble in the Grey Cup game was Mustafa Johnson, the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
94 was everywhere. And I remember watching the game a couple times after. And 94 just had a whale of a game at the best opportunity, in the Grey Cup game. So, these guys, and if I was playing on the O-line right now, first thing I'm doing is I'm going back to the Grey Cup game. What did Mustafa do? What does he like to do? So I know exactly how I'm going to play this guy, because it's been a long time. It's been 6 months since I saw the guy. Sean Lemon is going to be a big test. Derek Wigan, Isaac Ademi Berglund. I think they brought him over from Calgary. I believe he was with Calgary last year.
Yes.
They've upgraded a little bit there too. So, this is why it's such a great game. And I know I sound like a homer, not a homer, but how would I put this? Because I played in the pits, I love everything about the pits. I love the O and the D line. I love that. And I said this to you last year, and I know I started getting a little bit crazy about it because I still wish that this TSN would dedicate a camera just to the pit action and pick out a guy and watch it, because fans can really see where the battle is really won, where the game is really won is in that pit.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely not the pits, Chris. I know that.
Thank you, brother.
Mustafa Johnson, like, you remember Armando Sewell, who was for years, maybe a decade, regarded as the strongest man in the CFL. I would say that could now be Mustafa Johnson. Like, Montreal's defense, very, very good. The questions I have about Montreal is their return game, because they decided, similar to Winnipeg, to move on from their all-star caliber kick returner.
Yeah, that was Worthy, I think.
That's right, Chandler Worthy.
And there's a couple of guys out there.
Yeah,
Worthy and the guy. What about Alfred? Is Alfred really not anywhere either?
Mario Alfred is who Montreal traded to Saskatchewan last year because they liked.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're right.
The other guy. So and now they have neither of them. So we'll be watching them. It's Letcher who's going to be returning kicks for the Alouettes Thursday night as they kick things off for the 2024 season. I like the defense a lot, especially their front. Very, very good, very talented, capped by, I agree with you, Chris, maybe the best safety in the CFL in Marc-Antoine Dequoy. O-line, it's okay. They're going to be without former Bomber, actually, Jamar McGloster at right tackle. So a Canadian, or pardon me, a rookie, Donovan, I believe he's a rookie, is going to start at right tackle. But, I'm still a little mixed on the offensive line. With Walter Fletcher, Jeshrin Antwi, Sean Thomas Erlington. I think that's a real running back by committee group. And good receivers, Keon Julian Grant, Tyson Philpott, Sneed, as you mentioned, you really liked Cole Speaker, Rambo. they have talent there. It's all going to depend on Cody Fajardo. If he can match his level of play, in particular, the second half of the Grey Cup last year,
Remember that
I think
play?
Montreal is the team to beat in the East.
Was it 3rd and 20? And he threw a ball to Speaker, who broke coverage and got him a first down to go down and eventually game-winning drive. I think the strength is the quarterback and the receivers. I'm not blown away by their O-line. I'm definitely not impressed. I just don't think they have no fear factor for me in the running game. I think William Fletcher's okay, but I don't think there's a guy that really jumps off the page and makes me get a little goosebumps or any kind of a fear factor when I look at those guys. I think probably the way you put it is the best. Running game by committee. I know Sean Thomas Erlington, they really thought he was going to be the guy in Hamilton. Didn't work out so much. He signed in Montreal this year.
He's always been a change of pace guy, right?
Yeah, he has a couple of big games, and then he just kind of disappears. Yeah. So, that's why I say I think the receiving crew is really the strength on offense, along with the quarterback. I think that Cody Fajardo is a very smart individual. Again, a guy that gets rid of the ball very quickly. Doesn't get rattled. We've seen him throw like 4 interceptions. He comes back, and he goes right back to the same play. So, if you're a fan, and again, Princess Auto Stadium tomorrow night, 7:30, first regular season game, the Madhouse of Medicine that you like to call it. I think it's going to be a great game, and this is where I get excited. And I'm sorry, I do admit I'm not a big fan of exhibition games because there's too many players. And I don't even know who half of them are, so I lose track of it. And all I'm worried about is the beer line. So that ain't a big thing for me, right?
You got a beer line in the alumni section? Come on, no, you don't.
No, actually, Wade Miller has been taking care of the alumni guys pretty dang good right now. So I know Stan was at the game. Matt Mikowas was at the last exhibition game.
That's your right hand
man. It's nice to be there. Yeah, he was there. I'll probably be at the next couple games. I ain't going tomorrow. I'd love to go, but unfortunately, we're dealing with plumbing issues at the Walby house again. So
hey, I wanted to mention this to you, Chris. I don't know if you saw it on social media, but somebody brought Stan Mikowas his game-worn Grey Cup jersey to sign. Right. It looked like a flag. It was huge.
It actually,
how cool is that? Game-worn.
It was one of the Sawchuck. It was a Sawchuck. I went to school with his dad, he was so excited I saw that, and Stan was pretty enthralled to see it too, to have this autographed. Stan will tell you he's 77, man. There's a guy right now should be in the CFL Hall of Fame, and I'm throwing that out not because he's my friend, but he played 15 years in the middle when we ran a lot of 3-4 defense. And back then, you could chop the hell out of everybody.
Right, just chop at the knees, right? For those that don't know, the chop block is kind of diving at the knees.
You could chop block. So, DB, I could hold you up, and the guard can smash you. It was 2-on-1. Nowadays, if somebody's touching you, nobody else can touch you. Stan would get hit so many times.
You'd engage with a guy,
yep.
And then someone else would come and take his knees out.
You could do a lot of things back then, buddy.
How did you play 16 years? 17 years?
I don't know. 15 years he played. He's tough as nails.
Well, no, you played 16 or 17?
I only played 16. Thank God.
Only 6. How did you do that? How does that happen?
You know what? You beat yourself up so much that you get used to it. I told you this a couple of years ago. When you first go to camp, and a lot of these guys will see it too, when they get banging around, your arms and legs they go like a banana yellow from the bruising.
Right.
But after a week or so, you could hit it with a 2x4, ain't no mark. You're just used to it. Your body gets conditioned. Not that I recommend getting hit with a 2x4.
I'll bring a 2x4 over next time I see you. I'll find out.
Sounds like my first marriage.
Chris,
a lot of 2x4s.
I want to get your perspective on the East and West Division, how you see things shaking out. We've also got your keys to the game, but quickly, I got to mention our good friends at Scotswood Links. Look at that course. That's the front 9. It's much more open. The back 9, forested, very well treed, cut into prairie forest. This is 18 holes of well-developed golf goodness, spanning a landscape of that prairie forest and prairie meadow. It's just 30 minutes outside the city. Course is in great shape, and they've made countless renovations and enhancements to Scotswood Links over the years. Beautiful new clubhouse, restaurant, lounge, patios for me and you, Bluto, to kick back on with some coldies.
Amen.
And impressive private banquet facilities for your next special event. Residential lots for purchase, backing onto this beautiful rural golf course. You see the ladies and the men's open tournaments are upcoming. And this is the best part. If you go to scotswoodlinks.com, and that's Scotswood with 1T, scotswoodlinks.com/bonfire, you'll get yourself a really good deal on a foursome with power cards. How about that? So go check them out.
No
Scotswood
kidding.
Links.
Yeah, as I told you, I sure hope to hit a couple this year. I mean, I've been a long time hitting a golf ball, and it's not only is the most frustrating game, but the 19th hole is always a wonderful time.
You can always bring Mikowas over and practice with a 2x4 on his shins.
Yeah, you should see us walk now. You'd say looks like we got hit before.
Yeah.
Oh exactly. Man, that's good. No, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Okay, before your keys to the game, quickly, how do you see the West Division? Let's start in the East. How do you see the East Division shaking out with Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton, Ottawa, and, those teams seeing some major changes, especially at quarterback for a handful of them?
Yeah, there's a couple question marks I have. One is Hamilton. Is how Bo Levi going to play? I mean, Bo Levi, first game going back to Calgary. What a homecoming that is, right? I mean, that's going to be a great game. Drew Brown had a better second exhibition game. They really liked what they saw out of him. We know what he can do. We saw him play
balls
here.
Or something.
Yeah, so he did pretty good. No Chad Kelly in Toronto. We'll have to see what happens with them. They like the backups they got there. I still think Montreal's the front runner in the East. Mm-hmm. And actually, Ottawa surprised me. 2-0 in preseason. Maybe Bobby Dice has got something I don't know about there, the head coach in Ottawa. So I'd like to see them do well because you're tired of these teams that are always been in the bottom, staying in the bottom. So I'd like to see them come up. The West, I mean, it's between Winnipeg and BC, I think. But then Corey Mason, these Saskatchewan Rough Riders, they picked up what? Remember the guy who used to play? Marcus Sales, all-star. Mm-hmm. BC cuts him. They went younger. All of a sudden now he signs with Saskatchewan. Yep. Saskatchewan is picking up some good players. So this is what I love when you have parity in the league. But I still think the two front runners are Winnipeg and BC. Vernon Adams, I thought he was just an outstanding year last year. And can he repeat it? Then you got McLeod Bethel Thompson coming to Edmonton. He's going to help him, I think. Yeah. And then you got Trevor Harris coming back from that devastating leg injury in Saskatchewan.
38 years old, Chris. Has he ever been a winner?
But that's what I like.
Has he ever been a consistent winner?
No, I don't think so. But that's the thing. But I mean, every year is new. As I told you, it's fresh. Let's just, we'll see what happens. But I mean, I think that Winnipeg and BC are still the cream of the crop. But I really would watch out for Saskatchewan because I think there's something about that team, and not just because they're Prairie, but there's something about Corey Mason, what he's doing there. Now I'm reading the articles today, and they're dogging him. The media are dogging Saskatchewan. Rod Peterson, I guess, was saying that he didn't think Saskatchewan.
For what?
Yeah, I thought I read something about Rod Peterson saying that, he didn't think they had done much to change. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Chris,
but again, I could be wrong.
We know recent memory here in Winnipeg. Recent memory. Yeah. When you haven't won in a long, long, long time and you have had heartbreak after heartbreak season, it's always, I want to see it first before there's belief. I'm a little bit cooler on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I am hot on the Edmonton Elks. You add a 4,000-yard passer in McLeod Bethel Thompson. Curly Gittins Jr. is a Canadian to a very talented receiving core with, Mitchell and, for my money, top 3, maybe number 1 receiver in the league in Geno Lewis. Kevin Brown at running back. A good defense.
And the other guy, Javon, what's his name? Javon Leake?
Javon Leake, right? Yeah. Special teams player of the year they added. Don't sleep on Edmonton. I'm with you, though. BC, questions at receiver. No Lucky Whitehead, no Hatcher, no Rhymes to start the year anyway. So, I think BC is got an uphill to climb a little bit. But, of course, it being a Grey Cup year, they're going to be motivated. This is what I'll say about the East. It's probably Montreal's division to lose. Hamilton got better, not because of Bo Levi Mitchell or something like that. Hamilton got better because of their head coach in Scott Lanovich. That's a huge upgrade. He is a proven winner, dominant coach. I would put him up there with Mike O'Shea, with Don Matthews, with Wally Buono. I really, really would. He is that good, in my opinion. And I think Taylor Powell could end up being the starting quarterback of the Hamilton Tiger Cats at some point this season. But it's going to be a fun. Very good. It's going to be a fun.
It's fun. It's funny. Like, this is why when you and I do this thing now, the exhibition we're all over the place a little bit because there's so many players, so many things to bring up, so many things to talk about. But now when you get into the nitty gritty, the teams that actually are going to war for points to try and, for the standings, this is why I enjoy it. This is where I get the blood going. You get excited. Like I'm really looking forward to watching this game tomorrow. I really am. I think it's going to be a great game. I love the fact they're calling it a great Cup rematch, even though there's new players in each team, but the majority are still there. I think it's going to be just a fantastic game to watch.
Yeah. Here's the Blue Bombers 2024 schedule if you want to take a quick look. Alouettes, Red Blacks, Lions, Stamps, and Red Blacks again is the first 6 games of the season. Stamps at Riders, Argos, Lions, and then a bye week before seeing the Lions again. There's your middle third of the season. Ticats, of course, Labor Day and Banjo Bowl against the Rough Riders, and then their final their second bye week in week 15, and then final third of the season, home and home with the Elks, at the Ticats, home to the Argos, a bye in week 20, which I think is an advantage when you want to get your bodies healthy. If you win the division, you'll get 2 byes in 3 weeks. Then you got to be a little bit more careful, wrapping up with the way the season started, but this time in Montreal against the Alouettes. Chris, you got your 3 keys to the game. The reason everybody comes to Game Day Winnipeg live at 3 p.m. the day before the game every single week. What is critical for Winnipeg to accomplish to start the season off on the right foot?
I think offensively it's just getting Zach unloaded. It's first time for a lot of these guys to see the field. Shake the rust off on offense. That's my biggest thing. I mean, obviously, none of this old line has hardly played. None of the receivers have hardly played. Brady O's back. Let's see what he does. Shake the rust off. On defense, you got to let's see these new ends. I'm going to want to see this Celestin Habas. And I really like this guy, even though we didn't talk much about him, Devin Adams. I think he's going to be a very good football player. Let's see how Shane Gauthier, that middle, plays out on defense. And on special teams, let's find out the mystery of Myron Mitchell. Let's find out why this guy did not return a punt or kickoff in preseason and got the starting job. Yeah. There you go, my friend.
So, Stats Junkie, who is a good buddy of mine, when I see him around the stadium, he mentioned that Mitchell did return 1 kick, like 25 yards. It was the best kickoff return the Bombers had in the second preseason game. So,
what's his name? What?
Oh, Stats Junkie.
Well, Stats Junkie, we owe you one. There you go, buddy.
Yeah. It's been great seeing everybody come out for regular season game number 1 and the regular season debut of season 4 of Game Day Winnipeg. Chris, you're a beauty, buddy. I can't wait to do this again next week and then all season long. And for everybody else out there, join me and the Schnitz post-game, moments after the final gun goes. We'll have Game Day After Dark. Your comments will get live reaction and video highlights. You're not going to get that anywhere else. So you know where to go for the Bombers post-game show, and tell your friends to head over to Bonfire Sports for the post-game show. Everybody knows about Chris Walby, but we got to get him on the post-game too.
Yeah, well, I will be on there one time. You know that. And you know, it's the weirdest thing now, DB. I got internet at the lake now. So there's a plus. We don't have to sit. Mind you, as much as fun as I did hanging it up and, doing our little podcast from the dock or the deck, it will be interesting now to be able to open the computer and actually do it from maybe a little bit of an easier spot for us. But we always made it work, and it always does work. So God bless you, buddy. And like I said, let's enjoy the game tomorrow, people. Have fun at the game. Go Blue. And with that smattering of emotion, because I'm working on a new song about Zach. I'll give you the first line. Let me tell you a story about a man named Zach. Bearcat alumni, champs back to back. Okay, that's the last I can do for you, buddy. It's coming, though.
Enjoy the game,
You too, bud. Oh, man.